Hey, hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and this is Nigel. Him was just taking a nap. You wanna say hello? Okay, he said this. Let's not spiral, but it is June. It is June, the 6th month of 2024. Yes, so I'm here with a wrap up of what I read in May. I'm not upset at all that it's already June. No. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. So I, of course, read a mix of published works and fan fiction, which I talk about my word count on here that I've read of fan fiction, but not the actual fan fictions I read, and I won't because they're free things. I'm not reviewing them for my channel, but I did read a lot of fanfic, way more than I did of published works because I've been going through it. The depression is depressioning. So at the end, I'll have my tally of fanfic words I read, but we'll talk about the books that I finished in May. So I actually finished 7 books in May. I didn't think it was that many, but The Will of the Many was finished like the first couple of days of May, so maybe that's why it feels off. I have a separate standalone review for The Will of the Many, so I'll link it if you want to watch that. I did really enjoy it, but I do still have some problems with it. It was not like this perfect, mind-blowing book like it was to many people, but I did still like it. I will be reading the next one, but if you would like my unspoilery thoughts, you can watch that video. Then I read The Kept Woman by Karen Slaughter, which is the 8th in the Will Trent series. So I have slowly over the last several years been working my way through Karen Slaughter's backlist, and I should be up to date by now, but I'll read one, I'll love it, and then I won't read another one for a year. I don't know why I do this, but when I was looking back at Will Trent, I was like, why haven't I read one of these since 2022? Anyway, if you are looking for a place to start with Karen Slaughter, she does have standalones, but if you want to read, like, these books in the series that starts before this is Grant County and then this is Will Trent, you can read them as standalones because, like, most of the murder, like the mystery part of it is unique to that book. It very rarely overlaps. Sometimes like somebody comes back from something, but the interpersonal relationships you won't fully understand if you just jump in and read one. So I recommend that people start with Grant County, which I'll put the first book here, I can't remember what it's called, and then go into Will Trent because then there's some characters that overlap too, and it's just more satisfying if you really want that full story. Just start with Grant County and then go into Will Trent. But anyway, this is the 8th one and it was incredible. Of course, I know a lot of people don't like Karen Slaughter because of the graphic nature of her work, but I really like her stories, and just I don't know if I've ever hated someone as much as I hate Angie Pulaski, who is a character in the Will Trent series, but I love Will Trent and Sarah Linton so much. But this one was really interesting. All of them I think are really interesting. I'm never the person who usually can like put together who done it, what happened, and if I can, that's usually not a great book. But I don't put a lot of focus also into trying to figure it out. I kind of just like let the story unfold, and then something might come up and I'm like, oh my god, are they that person? But I'm not like, let me review all of the things I've read so far to try to come up with this before the author tells me. I usually don't do that. And so I'm along for the ride, and this was a great ride, and it was a great installment. And again, the personal lives of the characters, even if one is so infuriating, the twist and turns this one took, and then like, I forgot what percentage of the book we get to it and we switch like POV. Oh my god, I was like, you rotten. Oh, I can't say much without spoiling it, but again, it is the 8th in a series. You can read it as a standalone, but I don't recommend. But it was really, really good, and I just need to know if Will and Sarah get happily ever after. I don't know how many books Karen Slaughter has planned in this series. There are already, so I read the 8th one, and there's already a 9, a 10, 11, and a 12th one coming out in August. So I don't know how long. Like, it's easy for this to keep going because, you know, murders keep happening and we'll just see the lives of the characters play out. So I don't know how many, but I'm like, I need them to stay together, Karen, or I'm gonna become a Karen. No. Anyway, it's not a good review of the book because I can't really tell you much about it, but essentially there's like secrets and lies and like past coming back to haunt people, and there is the main case that we know about is this basketball player who has been accused of rape. But of course he has all these people around him, agents, lawyers, that are helping him, and Will is trying to, you know, get all the evidence, and things just seem to be not working in his favor. And then we have Angie Pulaski, unfortunately, and her fucking shenanigans. But then we also have Sarah Linton, who is now, is she now the medical examiner for their police department? Or I don't know how it works, if it's by county, if it's by whatever it's by, but she's now the medical examiner. And so we see her and Will's relationship, and we, of course, Will and Amanda, which this one, I felt like we're slowly wearing down the layers of Amanda, and I love to see it. She's still her hardcore bitchy self, but still, you know, she has love for Will and of course Faith. But we see secrets from the past of people around Will that have come back in present day, and somehow that is intertwining with the investigation that he is doing against this basketball player. And once it all comes together, it's like, wow. Wow. It was a 5-star for me. So hopefully I will read the next one this year and not wait another 2 years. I don't know why I do this to myself. It's like I'll never be up to date, but then it's like I always have something to read that I know I'll enjoy. So maybe that's why I'm doing it. Not sure. Then I read Because of Robin, which is sometimes a miss, but this one was a hit. I didn't rate it because I was like, it's between a 4 and a 5. But it's called Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is very short. It says, a sweet sapphic romance takes a deadly dark turn in the sharp as a knife novella. So I haven't read anything by this author, but we have these two characters. We have Rosemary and we have Ash. Is that her name? They meet at a farmer's market. Ash is selling soaps and stuff, and they just have like this instant connection. Like Rosemary, I think she's like trying to start over. I feel like she had like a breakup, but she had never dated women, but she just like feels something with Ash. And Ash also sells like cupcakes and stuff. So she has like cupcakes and soaps and plants, whatever, very earthy, farmer's market girly. So they hit it off, and they become more than friends. But then also things happen. Like, I don't know. I literally don't know how to talk about this book without spoiling it, because things are not as they appear. You know, you just start feeling it fairly early on in the book, right? And if you go into it reading any of that, you know that something is coming, but you just don't know what. And then you get a little bit more about these characters, and you're like, is it? No, can't be. And then you read a little more, and you're like, is it? No, can't be. And then you start seeing that maybe it can be. That's Bloom. I don't know. I think it was, I enjoyed it. That feels weird to say because it's fucking weird, because it takes a turn. But it was, let's just say I did not expect that. Yeah, I don't know what else you say. You can say, read it and then tell me your thoughts. But it's just like, I don't know, a lesson on maybe you also need to listen to your brain. Sometimes even when you're following your heart, you need to stop and ask some questions. Like, I then read Living Resistance, an Indigenous Vision for Seeking Wholeness Every Day by Caitlin B. Curtis, and this was for Book Community Read. I did end up canceling the live show because my anxiety was just so bad that day, and I haven't rescheduled it. And I feel bad saying I don't know if I will, but like, it's a very good like entry beginner level text. I just didn't get a lot from it that I hadn't gotten from like other books like this. And it just didn't give me the information, the steps on like a building community that I was looking for. And that's not necessarily the fault of the book. It is very short, and which is good, like again, for like a good beginner text into just like an Indigenous nonfiction, and just even thinking about ways that we can be more in tune with people around us and with the earth and stuff like that. But I don't know, it just, there are some actionable things, and there also is a lot in here about deconstructing from like, you know, traditional faith, which was relatable to me because I've done that. But I don't know, I just didn't get as much from it. But I know Bree read it and had things that she wanted to talk about, so maybe we will reschedule it, and I would like to hear what other people felt about it, because it just didn't resonate a lot with me. But that's just me being me. But I really did have some terrible anxiety that day. I was like, I can't do it. So maybe we will discuss that, and maybe I can get more from it by talking to people. That's really the point of the discussions anyway. I then read American Rapture by CJ Lead. Now this doesn't come out until October. My friend Alyssa told me about it, and I was granted the e-arc from NetGalley. And so this is put out under Tor Nightfire, and this author wrote a book that I haven't read, but I did see a lot around the internet, and it came out last year, called Mayfly. And I remember it because of this damn eyeball that's on the cover. But I just realized that there's also teeth, and there's someone looking at the eyeball. Wow, I did not look closely at that, but I have not read that one. But I did hear a lot of people liked it. So this one, Alyssa, I was like, I don't know, what is this gonna be? And this cover is something, but this ended up being amazing. I say that hesitantly because of the subject matter, but it is basically like a virus is spreading. Sophie, she has been brought up Catholic, very strict. She's in a very small town. All the people go to the same school. There's a school for girls, a school for boys. And basically everyone goes to the same church. She's very like sheltered. She doesn't, you know, does she have a cell phone? She's not on social media. She doesn't know all the things that are like going on in the world, very sheltered. And she has a twin brother, and he's been sent away, and we don't know why at first, but she's just, you know, living with these very strict parents. And she loves to read, and so of course her parents let her read, but there are only things that they let her read, but she does manage to like sneak in some other novels sometimes. But so that's kind of the opening of the book, and then you hear a little bit about the virus, and she's not hearing a lot of it, obviously, because she's shut off from like social media and watching stuff on TV, so she's not aware of how bad it's getting or how fast it's spreading. And then kind of all hell breaks loose, and we venture with Sophie as she's kind of on the run because of this virus that's spreading and reaches her area. And so she meets a bunch of people along the way, and there is a little bit of romantic tension there, but it's really like a found family kind of vibe. And it is also like kind of a zombie novel because of what the virus does to people. And it is, I am not the end all be all of zombie novels, but I have not read one where this is how they react, which was very interesting. And it just, you know, you do get a lot of what's happening, so it can be gory, you know, at times, hearing the things that are going on. And we just basically see her coming of age and like growing up and really grappling with what she was taught versus like the real world that she's experiencing, because she's meeting all these people who are not just like from her town. Like she's meeting them, they've been in different walks of life, they may be older, they've done different things, and she's like questioning all of these things that she's been taught and realizing, you know, of course, as someone who's raised under Christianity, it's like, everything bad. And so she's coming in contact with people who have had sex, who do, you know, do this certain job, or who go to a school with, you know, a co-ed school or something, or who may be gay. And she's like, wait, these aren't bad people. And so I rarely enjoy a book these days that has a young protagonist, but I think because of what she was going through and the like, kind of like deconstructing part of it, it was okay. I've never been like out in a zombie thing, but like I could relate to her more really with her just like grapplings with like, oh, this is the real world versus the sheltered world that I grew up in. And then just like, there was such good tension and I was just so scared for everybody. And then I like a very solid, concrete ending. And this one is not. And I didn't mind it. I was like, I don't know, I kind of like how you ended that there. But yeah, it's a coming of age story mixed with a zombie. Adventure sounds like it's fun. It's just not, you know, like a zombie apocalypse breakout, somebody coming to terms with reality versus what they've been taught, family bonds. It was a winner for me, 5 stars. My last two were also from NetGalley. One that has not come out yet, comes out in July, and then the other one has been out, but I still need to read it. But the first one that comes out July 9th is called The Coin by Yasmin Zahir. So this is a Palestinian author, and I was recommended this one by one of my patrons who had read it. And so I had not heard of this book. And so the premise is saying a bold and unabashed novel about a young Palestinian woman's unraveling far from home as she gets caught up in a scheme reselling Birkin bags. I think the biggest point here is the unraveling, because that is what this story is about. There is the Birkin bag scheme, and there is also parts of the story that talk about her teaching, because she's teaching at this school for underprivileged youth, and well, they're boys. I mean, I use the word teaching lightly because she's not necessarily following a curriculum, but it is really just like, we're in her point of view, and it's just a stream of consciousness of unraveling is probably the best word. Like, it's already weird at first and it gets worse. It wasn't for me. Sometimes I don't know. In this instance, I don't necessarily understand the message or like the point of the book. But again, it could just be me. Like, I don't really understand like the coin metaphor. There's a lot about like cleanliness, especially like with your body, like personally. She's like very about that, and there's like detailed descriptions of like her showering and shaving routine, and I didn't get it. Like, it didn't gel with me. It just was very choppy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say. I'm not trying to say like it's a bad book. I just don't think I didn't get it. And I wonder if I'm missing something. And so there's not a lot of reviews because it hasn't come out yet. And the ones that aren't like saying that they love this, the people have the similar things like, it's, you know, I'm not sure I fully understand. It's not very like coherent. It's kind of choppy. So like I'm waiting for like more reviews and more in-depth reviews of people who like gave it 4 and 5 stars, so I can like better understand and maybe have an idea of what, because I like got to the end and was like, I don't know. And that sounds so, but that's how I was like, okay, that's finished. I wish I wanted to love it, and I didn't. But lastly, I finished on May 31st, The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. Again, this came out in like February, and I had the e-arc, and I'm, you know, trying to stay on top of my NetGalley score. So I was like, let me finally fucking read this. And so I love the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, which is The Bear and the Nightingale. I love that series. And so I was just like, naturally, I'm gonna read this one. And I will say at first, like, I knew it was about something during war. So during the Great War, or World War I, is when this book is set. And so I knew that, but I will say that at first I was like, so is this just a historical fiction novel, or is there some kind of fantastical element? And there is, but at first I was questioning that. But our main character, we have Laura. So this is in, what is it, January 1918. So she was a field nurse, but she was injured. She was stationed over in Belgium, was injured, was sent home to Canada. So her brother was also there in Belgium, but obviously communication is not the best during war. So she doesn't know about him, where he is, if he's still alive. And so she's been back in Canada, and there's a massive, there's a big explosion that happens, and her parents are killed, and a lot of people are injured. And so she's kind of reeling from all of that, and obviously has not had any communication about her brother. And then see, here they come. So she receives information about her brother that would make it seem like he's dead, but it's also not conclusive. Like, it's not what you would normally expect. And then she's like, I need to know for certain. So her and these two ladies, they end up getting on a ship back to Belgium because she's determined to find out what happened to her brother. And many things happen. So of course they're going back into an active war zone, even though they're going to basically like a field hospital that they're setting up. But I mean, from the second they get there, there's, you know, bombs, and the person who was driving them to their place gets killed, and they stumble upon this place. Was that real, or was it not? And so then I'm like, oh, okay, I see we're getting a little fantastical here, but I didn't fully realize what part that had to play in the full story. But essentially we are following Laura, but then there is an alternating POV with her brother, but the timeline is a little off. So Laura starts in January of 1918, and her brother starts in November of 1917. So we're like going between the two of them and seeing what he's going through, but it's like, are they going to cross timelines live? Like, you know, are they both going to be alive? What's going to happen? So I really like that element of going between them. But I mean, it is war, so there's a lot of depictions of war in here. So, you know, just be warned. But there is a bond, a connection that her brother makes with another soldier, and but the story is really about war and how it affects not just the people in it, obviously, like the soldiers, but the soldiers on all sides of the war, their family members. So like spouses, ones that become widows, and children who lose parents, and parents who lose their children, and people back home who also, you know, are dealing with the consequences of war. And then it's just talking about kind of all of the ghosts that linger, both, you know, just mental, and then also in this story, ghosts. So it almost, when I was looking at the genre, like, I was like, let me make sure this just isn't historical fiction. So it obviously says historical fiction, but it says fantasy, historical fantasy, magical realism, and it also has horror, which it does have a little horror element to it with the ghost Nigel. Oh, here they come now, down a street again. So yes, there's ghosts, but also just like the ghost of, you know, what was before the war, that is going to stick with people if they survive it. And so I ended up really enjoying this. At first I was like, I just really like it because I like Catherine Arden's writing, and it just seemed like a historical fantasy. But once we really start to see how that like fantastical or magical realism element plays into the story, and I started to realize like what that was doing, I was like, ooh. And it started to like really get good, and the stakes got higher, and I was like, what's gonna happen? Are they gonna connect? Is he gonna be alive? Where is he? What's going on? Is she gonna die? Like, I was worried a lot. Once I got to like the 40% mark, I feel like I flew through it. So I gave it 4 stars. It is not The Bear and the Nightingale, but it still was really good. And I think just a unique way to tell a war story that I haven't read. I will say that with some of the kind of relationships in the story, not all of them, but some of them, I wish there had been kind of more time focused on that. I wish there had been more time focused on that because, like, I don't know. I guess maybe bonds are formed differently during war. I could see that they happen quickly, but some things like do happen with some people being together and you're like, there wasn't a lot of time, but again, extenuating circumstances. So I just would have liked to see it myself, just to read it and be in those moments with them as they were developing these relationships. But again, we're in the middle of war, so I understand. But I still really enjoyed that one, so I had a really good reading month. And again, here for myself really is my word count for how much fanfic I read in May. So much, and there's just so much more. But please, can I tell you that while I was looking for a fan fiction that was about Tormund Giantsbane and Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, I stumbled across the weirdest crossover. And maybe it's not weird to other people, it seems weird to me, but the crossover was A Song of Ice and Fire, which is the Game of Thrones series, Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, and Harry Potter. Crossover. And there are 3 works in this series so far. The first one is like 280,000 words, which is a lot. Then the second part of this is like 470,000 words, which would like be more than a Stormlight archive. I don't know why I'm pointing to it. You can't see it. That's at least 1,000 pages. At least. And then I want you to know the 3rd installment in this series, this crossover series, is still being written. It's a WIP, a work in progress. There are over 1 million words in this 3rd part. There are not even 1 million words in the Bible. There's 1 million words, and they're still in just that one part, and they're still writing it. And I'm like, what is going on here? I'm almost intrigued enough that I want to read it, but that's so many words. I don't know if I can commit, but I just, when I was looking for that, I came across that and I'm like, oh, wow, I just love the minds that write fan fiction. Cause like, what? I love it so much. Anyway, make sure that you do not pay for fan fiction. Fan fiction is free. I read the majority of mine on AO3. Some I still get from fanfiction.net. I don't use Wattpad. But do not buy or sell fanfiction. I know that seems like, Jessica, why would you need to say that? But sadly, that has been a thing. So just putting that out there. But anyway, that's my reading for May. Because again, so happy that it's already June. Yeah, so tell me about your reading in May, or if you've read anything that I've read. If you happen to be a fan fiction reader, can you tell me, what do you read? Like, what's your ship? What are you reading about? And or if you have any major reading plans for June. I already have a couple of books that have come in from the library. I want to get back to because you know I don't make official TBRs, but I do want to get back to Full Metal Alchemist. And I kind of have this series on my shelf that I want to reread that I read like in 2017, 2018, that I liked at the time, but I feel like I have not heard a lot of people talk about it online, and I'm also wondering if it's problematic. So maybe I'll just reread it in peace. I don't know. But of course nothing's set in stone because I'm very much a mood reader, so who knows if I will get to anything that I'm talking about right now. So that was it. Thanks for watching. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. Stay blessed, hydrated, moisturized, and sunscreen. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.